The A380 struggled to attract the widespread attention that maybe Airbus may have once envisaged, but throughout its history there were many orders that never materialised. For several reasons, like any program, airlines that committed to the series saw their contracts fall through, reducing the backlog of the world's largest passenger plane in the process. One of those was former Russian carrier of Transaero, which operated scheduled flights and had the intention of flying the A380, but it never went on to do so. The landmark decision from Transaero to purchase the A380 came in October 2011 when an MOU was signed. Transaero at the time committed to 4 Airbus A380s in a move that would see it be the launch customer for the world's largest passenger plane in Russia, and it were really looking at it the broader Eastern European region too. At the time, the second largest carrier of Russia saw the A380 as a perfect means to elevate its long-haul flying, while also pointing towards shorter flights as a possible use point for the Super Jumbo. Speaking with Today in the Sky, the CEO in 2013 would say that a high focus for the jet would be on its most popular routes, with therefore the highest amount of passenger traffic. We were looking at markets such as Moscow through to Thailand, Moscow to the Dominican Republic, and even Barcelona. However, international flights were not the sole focus, with Transaero even floating the possibility of domestic service with the jet. Given the scale of Russia, the flight, if it had actually gone ahead in a domestic sense, would have been one of the longest domestic flights possible, exceeding 4,000 miles, and certainly more than flying in the United States between, say, coast to coast. Transaero hoped to use the A380, even the 747-8, leveraging the two quad-engine types to their advantage, with the Airbus flying across more of your high-season markets, and then during the low season, the usage of the 747 would take shape. Transaero were founded in 1990 and acted as a privately owned company in Russia, aimed to really disrupt the aviation sector in a period of change for the broader country. Beginning as a small company, the rise of Transaero was relatively quick, with the business becoming one of the largest in the aviation industry in that part in a short time. The airline aiming to take advantage of its emphasis on service compared to state-run competitors, targeting not just one demographic but also those travelling for leisure and business purposes. Using Moscow, the carrier was able to develop its network across Russia quite strongly. Additionally, they saw much development of their international network in due course, with a focus on Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and more. Throughout its time in the industry, the accolades for the carrier did stack up, notably being the first private Russian airline attempting to break the monopoly that Aeroflot had long held at the time of its introduction. Meanwhile, it also became the first 747 operator in Russia, signifying the direction that Transaero really did want to head. Additionally, its commitment to the A380, albeit one that failed, highlighted internally what was next. Despite the ambitious attempts by Transaero to fly the Airbus A380, one of the biggest decisions came in the form of the configuration, the airline confirming that it would look to configure the 380 with close to 700 passengers, or 700 seats. Therefore, you're looking at 652, achieved through a 3-class configuration. There would be still first class and business class, but it would be a much more economy-dense layout, with 600 of the seats being in economy alone. For Transaero, this move put it in a different category from other A380 operators who leverage the space and therefore scale of the jet to move ahead with a real innovative cabin class, and they just so happen to put greater emphasis on upper classes to help drive revenue. Each airline's decision to configure the A380 the way they do will obviously vary, but for the most part, like I've said, airlines have looked to leverage the space to make the cabin feel so spacious. So much more spacious than other options on the market, and that is why customers have flocked to the Super Jumbo ever since it has entered service. Transaero were looking for something a little bit different. Unfortunately for the business, its mission to fly the A380 did not pan out as intended, and months before the delivery of the first unit, there were concerns about the future of the business. Transaero, with economic uncertainty, said that it would defer the delivery of the A380 by at least another year, through to 2026, and this was a move that had analysts' heads ringing, with the business attempting to get its finances in check first. With visible concerns in tourism levels given the sheer scale of the A380, there were worries about how Transaero's initial plan for the jet would pan out, and rightfully so. In the end, the debt of the Russian carrier would only increase, and more pressure was not on the A380 the order, but on the mere ability to survive. As pressures mounted, the end of Transaero arrived, with the company entering into bankruptcy and ceasing scheduled passenger flights. This also unfortunately spelled the end of the Airbus A380, and means that this was a business that joined many that never went on to fly the world's largest passenger plane. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Subscribe to Globetrotting if you haven't already. Your subscription would be greatly appreciated. Take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you in a couple of days for your latest industry recap.
And we'll fly.